So in this video, I'd like to build on a theme that Brian has opened up over the last couple of videos, and that is the power of perception. One of the things that we are keen on getting across in this video series is that as human beings, we don't actually respond to reality as such. We respond to our inner perception of reality. So we're talking about the movies that we play inside our mind, the thought processes that go on, the stories that we tell ourselves. And usually these stories, these ideas, these inner perceptions can actually end up being very different than reality itself. That we make all kinds of generalizations, distortions, and we delete information, so we end up just responding to our watered down, filtered out version of what is actually going on. And when you change the way that you perceive things inside your mind, then all of a sudden new choices, new ways of thinking, feeling and being in the world become available to you. So in this video, I wanted to just share with you a couple of real life examples just so that this idea is crystal clear inside your mind. And of course the first one, as Brian said, is when I became a champion salsa dancer. So let me explain. Around about 8 or 9 years ago, I decided to learn to dance. It was a stage in my life where I wanted to do something different. I wanted to expand my world, to really enrich my own map of reality. And at the time, I had believed genuinely that I couldn't dance. I had boxed myself in as being someone with 2 left feet, as the old adage goes. So I decided to put my heart and soul into learning Cuban-style salsa. Now, I was quite lucky to have a dance partner at the time, someone who I got on with really well, a little Chinese girl who was very enthusiastic and also incredibly competitive. So around about 8 months in, she phoned me up and she said, Steve, this weekend there's a Scottish beginners salsa dancing competition. I think we should enter. I think we've got a good chance. Now again, at the time I believed that I was a heck of a lot better a dancer than what I actually was. I was pretty delusional if I'm being honest, but hey, we all respond to our own inner perceptions. So I said to her, yeah, let's go for this. We're a shoo-in, of course we're going to win. We're fantastic dancers. We've only been dancing for 8 months, but we're brilliant already. So we turned up at this competition and lo and behold, we came second out of 3 couples. So technically we also came second last, but hey, I'm taking that as a silver medal. But then the strange thing happened a few days later. When we were in the salsa class, our teacher decided to use us as his own marketing tool, and he made this big massive announcement. So he brought us into the middle of the group. There was roughly around about 50 people there, and he said, we have an announcement. We have with us tonight Stephen and Amy, runners up in the Scottish Beginners Salsa Dancers competition. And everyone went absolutely wild, a big huge round of applause. Then later on in the evening, I've got to say I was a little bit embarrassed. Later on in the evening, when we were social dancing in a club in the centre of Glasgow, I walked up to a girl and said, do you want to dance? Because that's the kind of thing you do at these social events. You just basically ask anyone. It's a very polite and very sociable atmosphere. And all of a sudden, as soon as I asked her, she started to get nervous. And I could see her state completely change. And she said, I don't know if I can dance with you because you're a champion. Which I have to admit I did find rather funny. One, because I actually was quite shit at dancing at that stage. 2, I didn't even win the thing. I was in second place, but she'd suddenly elevated my status to become a champion. And 3, of course, technically I was also second last because there was only 3 couples. Now, apart from being more than a little bit embarrassed, this did underline for me the power of perception. Because this woman was not responding to reality at all. She was responding to her distorted, generalised and deleted version of reality. She had added her own interpretation in and come up with something completely different. Now, even though this seems quite funny, it seems a little bit strange, this is something that happens all the time. We do this almost every moment of every day. And that's exactly what we mean when we say that you don't respond to reality, you respond to your inner perception of reality. So let me give you a second example, and this is more of a therapeutic one. A few years ago I was working with a client who was scared of spiders. For some reason spiders seem to be featuring prominently in this video series. I don't know why that is. And when I sat down with her and had a conversation about what was going on, her story of her fear was absolutely incredible. She said to me, well, I know when I'm coming home from work that the spiders are waiting for me. It's kind of like they're having some town meeting. It's almost like they've got walkie-talkies and they can communicate with each other, and they're all waiting for me to come in through the door, and then they rush out of all the nooks and crannies and holes and just basically just cover my head and all over me. And I was like, this is just crazy. And again, this sounds bizarre. It sounds almost like crazy talk, but it's not as crazy as what you think, because again, this is something that we tend to do naturally as human beings. We'll take a situation and we'll really distort it inside our mind, and we'll then start to respond to that distorted version. And most of what we do in NLP is about helping people clear up these distortions, helping people realize that they are generalizing and deleting information so that they can actually see what's really going on. And when you change these inner perceptions, all of a sudden, you suddenly start to see the world in a very different way. New options, new choices, new ways of thinking, feeling, and being become available to you. So hopefully these two examples have really helped flesh things out inside your mind. So what I'd like you to do before you move on to the next video is have a think about the difference between reality and your perception. When you think about the way that you think about your world, how is it different to what is actually going on? Do you have some specific examples that you can draw from? Because the more reference experiences that you can have for this idea, the more it will embed inside your mind and the more that you'll get this concept we're trying to get across. So once you've had a chance to think about this, head over to the next video and we'll progress with the training course. We'll see you shortly.